Hi there. Today I'm filming you another sequence to help with pelvic pain and endometriosis. And this is also great for PMT. So if you're in the last stages of your menstrual cycle, like I am at the moment, maybe you're feeling quite bloated and a bit sore and achy all over, maybe some low back pain or tightness through your muscles and just really not feeling at your best. So this sequence is designed to help with bloating and with stiffness and soreness and give a nice release through the low back and the hips and pelvis. Okay, so we'll get started. We're going to come into a child's pose to begin with. I do have two blocks here. I'm not going to be using them, but if you've got blocks at home, they're always quite useful to make some of the poses more accessible. So we'll come into a child's pose. We're going to keep it relatively supportive, so not bringing the knees wide to the edges of the mat. Just keep them just slightly apart so that you can kind of gently rest forward. Your belly's not being compressed. And all the way through this practice, trying as much as possible to keep the belly really, really soft. I know we often think about drawing the stomach muscles in during yoga or other forms of exercise, but at this time of the month, we just really want to let them be loose and be soft and not be doing too much work with them. So walking yourself forward and maybe just making a little pillow of your hands, one on top of the other, that you can rest your forehead on. Just starting to come into a comfortable pose here. Letting your belly be soft, allowing your hips to settle. And as you're starting to find your breath, feeling that nice expansion through the skin of the back as you breathe in, and a nice relaxation as you breathe out. So this sequence is going to be a moving sequence. We're going to gently move, stretch, twist, just starting to bring a little bit of ease and relief, particularly through the pelvic and low back area. Everything just being done slowly and mindfully, and trying as much as possible to move with our breath. So being conscious of deep, steady breaths in and long, slow exhales. Let's just take one more breath in this child's pose. Letting it go. And we'll come up to all fours. We're just bringing hands under shoulders and knees under hips. And we're going to take a cat-cow. But I'd like you to really focus on the pelvic area in this cat-cow. So what we're going to do is on the inhale, start to gently tilt the pelvis up towards the ceiling. And as you do that, let your belly naturally drop. Let your chest move down and your head moving up. On the exhale, focus on tucking the pelvic and the tailbone under, and then letting the spine naturally round, dropping the chin to the chest. So we're really leading the movement from the pelvis and focusing on some gentle movements through the pelvis. Take your time just to find that movement. Or just take one more round, going at your own pace. And then coming back to a neutral spine, let's just take some big circles now with the hips and the pelvis, just moving in one direction. You can make them as big or as small as you like. Keeping your breath going. Moving the other direction. And then coming back onto your heels for a moment, stretching the arms out in front of you, little child's pose. Just seeing if your hips get a little bit lower to your heels this time. Taking a breath in here. And on the exhale, start to rise up onto your knees, curving through the spine, cat pose. Inhale, come to cow and pressing yourself back onto your hips. Let's take that again. Inhale, rising up, arching through the spine. Exhale, dropping the belly, coming back onto the hips. Let's take that once more. Continue that movement if you like it. If you'd like to try something a little deeper, now we're going to come forward, bending through the elbows, pressing up into a little up dog, little arch through the spine, legs are straight behind us. And exhale back through cat, back to the hips. So let's try that again. Inhale, coming forward, little up dog. Exhale, pushing back onto the hips. Once more. Beautiful. Let's just come forward all the way onto our bellies now. Making that little cushion for your forehead again with your hands, bringing your forehead down. Just widen the knees towards the edges of the mat and bringing the feet up towards the ceiling here. Start to drop the feet from side to side in a little windscreen wiper motion. You can go quite slowly here, giving a little bit of massage to the abdominals, gently releasing through the low back. And coming back to stillness, bring your legs straight on the mat again. I'm going to give you a couple of options. One is to stay with your forehead down. Just going to bring the right knee out to the side at right angles from the hip, flexing the foot, and just stay down in this little supportive frog pose. If you'd like to take this a little bit further, you can come up onto your forearms like a little sphinx, keeping that right leg out to the side. Just taking a breath here, relaxing your hips down to the mat. Again, this might be enough for you. So if you just want to stay here, hold this position, keep breathing. If you'd like to take it a wee bit further now, we're just going to lift that left foot up towards the ceiling. You'll start to feel a nice stretch through the quad. Balancing on your left forearm, you can bring the right hand behind you to take hold of that foot. Find a grip that works for you, looking back over your shoulder towards that foot. Taking a few nice deep breaths here, keeping the hips really relaxed towards the mat. Let that foot go, bring it down with control. Coming back to center, just bring that right leg in. Maybe give the hips a little bit of a shimmy, loosen out the low back, we'll go to the other side. So again, take whichever option you'd like. You might just want to keep your forehead down to the mat, bringing the left knee out at right angles and the hip flexed. Just staying up for a moment on your forearms. Relaxing into the hips. And then if you'd like, you can take that little twist and quad stretch again. So lifting the right foot, bringing the left hand back, and looking back over that left shoulder. Keeping the hips relaxed. Let that foot go, bring it down with control. Coming back to center. Little shimmy of the hips. And now let's press ourselves up into down facing dog. So keeping the hands about mat width apart, little bit further forward from the shoulders, tucking the toes behind you, pressing the hips up towards the ceiling. And for this first one, just bring your feet out as wide or just almost as wide as the mat, keeping the hands, fingertips splayed, pressing back, seat up towards the ceiling. And on an inhale, let's just bend the knees. Don't worry about your hips coming up. And exhale, press your heels down towards the mat. Let's take that twice more. So inhale and exhale. And then bring the feet back together, classic stance here. Let's just take one breath here. Letting it go, let's bring the knees back down to the mat, back into all fours. We're going to step the right foot through into a low lunge. So knee roughly over ankle, fingertips or palms or fists on the mat, or you might want to grab some blocks to bring yourself up a little bit higher. Just relaxing the hips down towards the mat, feeling that nice stretch through the left hip and the left quad. Drawing the shoulders back and down. Take one more breath here. And then planting the left hand down. Let's bring the right hand onto the right thigh and just press into the thigh to help turn yourself into a twist, looking back over that right shoulder. Breathing deeply. Let the twist go. Coming back to center. Now we're going to press into our hands, gradually shifting the weight back into the hips. And we're going to keep on going until we can sit back down onto the mat with this right leg in front of us. Now, a couple of options here. Keeping this left foot to the left of your hip with the top of the foot down on the mat and the knee down on the mat. So we're going to take a little quad stretch. If this doesn't work for you, just bring your left foot to the inside of your right thigh. But if you can, we're going to take this little half hero pose. Put the hands behind you just to tuck the pelvis under. You'll find that makes the position much easier. And then we're just going to walk back just until you're comfortable. You might want to stay up here. You might want to come down on your forearms. I'm certainly not going any lower than this. And you can keep your right leg out straight, or something I really like to do is bring that right foot in, pressed against that knee. And this gives me a little bit of an opening through the right hip as well. It's very comfortable. So keeping the shoulders back, this is sort of like sunning yourself on the beach pose. Just really breathing into your abdomen, into your hips, into your pelvis, remembering to keep your belly really soft here. And to come out of this pose, we're just going to press our hands behind us to come up. Just bring this let's bring your left foot up and over till you can plant your left foot, all 5 toes, the whole of the underside of the foot down on the mat, crossing over this right knee. Bring yourself up to a nice straight spine. We're going to bring the left fingertips behind us, lift the right arm up into the air. Use this to pull yourself a little bit taller, and then turn, hook that right elbow on the outside of your left knee, and just use that to pull yourself into another twist, looking over your left shoulder. Couple of breaths here. And then let that go. I'm just going to cross at the ankles, coming over the knees back into down facing dog. Tuck the toes, hips up to the ceiling. Maybe walk out the dog, paddling the feet. Maybe notice if you have a little bit more space in your downward this time. Maybe it feels a little bit more comfortable. Press through the hands to lift the seat up towards the ceiling. Get a nice stretch through the upper back. Bringing the knees down to the mat. Find all fours. We're going to come into that low lunge on the left-hand side. So find your stance. knee over ankle, whichever option with your hands you would like. And just coming into that low lunge, just relaxing for a few breaths, letting that right hip drop down towards the mat. Plant that right hand down, bringing the left hand to the left thigh, pressing into that thigh to turn yourself into a twist. Keep breathing, keeping the hips nice and low. Gently coming back to center, press into the hands, start to shift the weight back, walking your hands back until you can come to sit down with this right foot to the outside of your hip, or if it's not appropriate, bring the foot into the inside of that leg. Tuck the pelvis under here and come back into your little sunning yourself pose, or maybe bring yourself up a bit higher. If there's any pinching or pain in the knee, if it's not comfortable, bring yourself up higher or change the position of the leg. And if you'd like, you can bring that left foot inside, pressing against that right knee. Relaxing your tummy, breathing deeply into your pelvis and hips here. Press our hands into the mat, slowly bring yourself back up. We're going to lift that right leg up, bring it over, right foot planted down onto the mat. With a nice straight spine, right fingertips behind you, left hand up towards the ceiling, pulling yourself up tall, and then hook that left elbow on the outside of your knee and use it to lever yourself over into a twist. Couple of breaths here. And then letting it go. Let's cross at the ankles, just finding downward dog one more time here. Paddling out the feet, taking a few bends of the knees, stretching, coming to stillness. Take a big breath in, letting it go. Let's slowly walk our feet and our hands to meet one another in the middle of the mat. Maybe taking hold of opposite elbows, a little bit of traction on the spine, slight bend in the knee, bringing the top of the head pointing down towards the mat, and a little ragdoll fold. Taking a couple of breaths here. And then bringing your fingertips down towards the mat. Just going to widen the feet. If you need to, again, bring some blocks in to bring the mat up to you. Going to widen the feet out towards the edges of the mat again. Maybe at a slight angle this time. So not quite 45 degrees, but the toes are pointing up towards the top corners of the mat. The hips are in a little bit. Take an inhale just to stretch through that forward fold, lifting the hips up towards the ceiling. And on the exhale, drop down into a squat, keeping your hands on the mat for balance. Don't worry if your hips lift up. Just focusing on dropping the pelvis down. Take an inhale here. On the exhale, use your hands, use your feet to press yourself back into that forward fold, lifting the hips towards the ceiling. Take a breath in. Exhale, drop down into that squat. Let the pelvis be heavy and tuck under. Breathing in. Exhale, pressing up towards the ceiling. Inhale here. Exhale, dropping down. Let the pelvis be heavy. Inhale. Exhale, lifting up. Last time. Lifting the hips towards the ceiling, dropping the head down. Take an inhale. Exhale, drop down into the squat, and let's hold the squat this time. So if your heels are quite far off the mat, you feel like your balance is wobbly, use some blocks to prop your heels up. I'm just going to bring my hands into prayer here, using my elbows just to push the knees open a little bit more, and really just focusing on dropping the hips down towards the mat, letting the low back be heavy. Just feel a very nice, gentle loosening through the muscles, through the spine and the low back. Taking a couple of deep breaths here. Feeling the pelvis get heavier. And then bring the hands to the mat. We're just going to gently come out of this by coming onto our knees. Bring the knees back together. Arming back to sit. We're actually going to come down onto our backs now. Just a couple of last little poses here. Just coming onto your back. Bring the feet about hip width apart. Just about touchable distance with your fingertips. Placing your arms on the mat beside you. On an inhale, start to roll the pelvis up. Lift yourself just into a very low bridge, just a few inches off the mat. And exhale, roll yourself back down. Let's just take that a couple more times. Very gentle, therapeutic movements. Lift yourself up one more time, and either just stay as you are, maybe take a few breaths holding here, or if you'd like, you could press up a little bit higher, and making a couple of fists. Just wiggle your hands in underneath the base of your spine, like a little support, and allow your hips to get a bit heavy, just resting on your fists there, just in a little supported bridge. Again, you could just grab your blocks here if you wanted and use them instead. Take a couple of breaths here. And bring your arms out, gently roll the spine back down. Let your hips get heavy on the mat. Just bring the knees in, hands on the knees, just guiding the knees in some small circles. Just a light massage for the low back here. And then any other movements that you want to take here. And then when you're ready, bringing the arms and the legs out wide, letting the feet fall outwards, hips are open, palms to the ceiling, well away from the body. Coming into Shavasana and letting yourself get really heavy on the mat here. And just noticing how your body's feeling through the back, through your thighs and hamstrings and pelvis. And again, just breathing deeply into that part of the body, allowing it to be soft, allowing it to relax. Just encourage you to stay in Shavasana for a couple of minutes or as long as you would like today, just allowing your body to rest. I hope that you found today's practice really helpful, that it's given you a little bit of pain relief and you're maybe feeling a little bit less bloated and tired. Thank you for practicing with me.